Hi, this is Annie. Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be making this Black-Eyed Susan granny square. The Black-Eyed Susan is the state flower of Maryland, and this granny square is part of my state flower granny square project. A couple of things before we get started. First of all, this is an easy intermediate level tutorial. So while I will be showing you step by step how to make this granny square, I will not go in a lot of detail for very basic crochet stitches and techniques. So if you're very new to crochet, I would recommend you start with one of my beginner friendly tutorials before moving on to this one. A second thing to mention is that this is my original design. You are more than welcome to use the squares that you make with this tutorial in any of your crochet projects. I just ask that you give me credit for the design, and I will include super simple guidelines in the description of this video on how you can do that. To make this granny square, you are going to need 3 different colors of yarn if you want to make your Black-Eyed Susan in 3 colors like I've done here. The yarn that I'm using today is this Hobie Rainbow 8/8 100% cotton yarn. This is a number 3 lightweight yarn, and with this yarn and with my hook, which is a 4.5 millimeter hook, US size 7. So with this yarn, this hook, and my tension, my granny square ends up being about 4 by 4 inches. Then you're also going to need a yarn needle for weaving in your ends and a pair of scissors. We are going to start our granny square from the middle. So go ahead and grab whatever color you want to use for the center of the flower, and we will get started. I'm going to start my granny square by making a slip knot. And putting it on my hook. And then I chain 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And now I'm going to bring this together into a ring by slip stitching here into that first stitch. So just a slip stitch in there. And then I chain 1 stitch. All right, so now I have formed a ring, and around this ring I will work 12 single crochet stitches. So now this chain 1 that I chained here, I am actually going to count that as one of my single crochets for this round. So I'll just go ahead and work 11 actual single crochets in addition to that chain 1. All right, let's see how many stitches I have so far. So I count my single crochets here on the outside. I find it easier. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And now I will also count this loop that's on my hook as one of those stitches here on the outside edge. So I have 11 right now, counting this one. So I'll work 1 more single crochet. And then I will join this round with a slip stitch here into that first stitch there. And now the way I count my stitches here, I will fasten this off. I already got my yarn. So I'll just chain one and pull this through. I'm going to show you here how I count my stitches because I know some people don't count that initial chain one as anything, which is totally fine if that's what you do. But what we need to make sure for our next round is that we have 12 stitches here on the outside that we're going to be working into for our next round. And for me, since I don't count that, I do count that initial chain one as a single crochet, I'm going to count this one, so the stitch that I just slip stitched into, as well as this one as stitches for the next round. So this is where I slip stitched into my first stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. I have 12 stitches. So however you close your round, whether you count that initial chain one as something or not, doesn't really matter that much. What matters is that you have those 12 stitches that you plan to work into for our next round. All right, and for our next round, we're gonna need the yarn or the color that you want to use for the petals, because we're gonna be working the petals of the Black Eyed Susan next. So I attach my yarn with a slip knot. And again, if you have a different way of doing this, feel free to do it your way. And I will attach it into one of these 12 stitches here on the outside. I'm using my weaving as you go method, so I'll attach it here where I have this previous yarn end. I'll link to a separate tutorial for the weaving as you go method if you want to take a look at it. I'll add the link in the description of this tutorial. All right, so I'll just pull that yarn through there and pull it through the loop on my hook. And then pull this yarn end tight. All right, and this is where I'll start my first petal. And now each one of these petals is actually a cluster of 2 treble crochets. So essentially what we're going to be doing is we're going to be working 2 treble crochets in each stitch. And we leave those treble crochets kind of unfinished, and we finish both of them at once. I'm going to be showing you here what I mean by that. And I'm going to start the first one by chaining 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3. And then I will work, this counts as my first treble crochet for this cluster. I will work another one into the same stitch. So now I go yarn over twice to make a treble crochet, insert in the same stitch. I have 4 loops on my hook, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And now I have here 2 kind of this unfinished treble crochets. This chain counts as my first one. And I go yarn over and pull through both of those loops. This first one is actually a little bit different because we start with that chain there, but I'll show you the next one because the rest of the petals are going to be the same way as the next petal. So that's my first petal. I chain 2 between petals, and then I will work my next petal in the next stitch there on the outside. So I go yarn over twice, I insert in the next stitch, pull the yarn through, I have 4 loops on my hook, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. That's my first treble crochet for the cluster. I have 2 loops on my hook. I'll make another one. I have 5 loops on my hook, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And now I have 2 treble crochets here. well, they're not treble crochets yet. They are these partial treble crochets. And I have 3 loops on my hook. And at this point, I finish both of these treble crochets at once. So I go yarn over and I pull through 3. And that's my second petal. I chain 2 between petals. And I work my next petal in the next stitch. So yarn over twice, I insert in the next petal. I have 4 loops on my hook, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and I stop. Then I make another one, yarn over twice, insert in the same stitch, pull the yarn through, 5 loops on my hook, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and stop. I have 2 partial treble crochets and 3 loops on my hook, and I go yarn over and pull through all 3. And that's my third petal. And that's exactly how I work all 12 petals. So feel free to go ahead, work around yours, create 12 petals in total, chaining 2 stitches between petals. And once you worked all 12, meet me back here. If you want to see again how to make the petals, feel free to rewind and see how we made these last 2, because the rest of them are going to be exactly the same way as these 2. First one was a little different with the chain there, but the last 2 are going to be the same as the rest of the petals. All right, I am ready to join this round. So I have just finished my last petal here and chained those 2 stitches. And now I close this round with a slip stitch into the space between the first 2 petals. So the chain 2 space between the first 2 petals. A slip stitch there. Then I can chain 1, break my yarn, and fasten off this color. All right, and next I'm going to bring in my background color. I'm using this beige. And now I'll go ahead and attach my yarn once more with slip knots. Put it on my hook. And I'll attach my yarn into one of these spaces between the petals. And since I'm still using my weaving as you go method, I'll attach it right where I have this yarn end. Attach my yarn there. And pull that yarn end tight. All right, and then I will chain 1 stitch. And now for this next round, I am actually going to be only making single crochet stitches into this chain 2 spaces that we created with the previous round. So I'll create single crochets all around before I start the next round that creates this square around the Black-Eyed Susan. The purpose of this round really is to make the square the same size as my other state flower squares. So that's why I'm adding this around here. So I chained 1 here, and now this chain 1 here doesn't count as anything for me. So I'll work 3 actual single crochets into this space. So I just go straight into the space, bring the yarn through, yarn over and pull through 2. It's my first single crochet. So it's a simple single crochets into these spaces. In this one now I have 3 actual single crochets and the chain 1 that doesn't count as anything. And then I'll just move straight on to the next space. 3 single crochets in to this space as well. So that's how I work all around the Black-Eyed Susan. So 3 single crochets into each one of those spaces. Once you're done with one space, just move straight into the next one. So nothing you need to do in between. Just go straight into the next space and 3 single crochets. So go ahead and work all around yours like this. And once you're done, then meet me back here. All right, I have worked all around, and now I'll just go ahead and close this round with a slip stitch here into this first single crochet. So I go right here under both of those loops and pull the yarn through and pull it through the loop on my hook. And now, important thing when you slip stitch there, make sure that you still have 3 stitches in this loop because we need that for our next round. So if I count here, this loop belongs to this stitch here. This one belongs to the other side. So this is the first stitch on this loop. So I have 1, 2, and 3. So where I just slip stitched. And then this one here belongs to that side. And now I'm going to start creating the square around my Black-Eyed Susan. And for the corners, I am going to be using treble crochet stitches. And for the sides, double crochets. I'll make 2 clusters of double crochet. And I'm going to start my first corner right here where I just slip stitch to close the previous round. So I'll go ahead and chain 4 stitches for a treble crochet. This chain 4 counts as my first treble crochet. And then I'll go ahead and work 2 more treble crochets into that same stitch. So yarn over twice, insert in the stitch, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, treble crochet, yarn over twice, insert in the same stitch, bring the yarn through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And this is my first corner cluster. I will chain 2 for the corner. And now this cluster I worked in the first one of those single crochets that I had in this loop. I will skip the next single crochet and I will work another cluster of treble crochets into the third single crochet that's in the same loop. So skip and go into the third one. 3 treble crochet stitches into this stitch. And that's my first corner. Next I will work my side, and these 2 loops here where I have 3 single crochets in each one of those loops, I will work the side clusters into these. And here I go yarn over because I'm going to make a double crochet. I will work 3 double crochets in the middle stitch of those chain 3 that I created here. So I skip one here and I go into the middle stitch of this loop. It's this one right here. This is the first one if I count from here. This one, it sits right on top of this stitch here. This is the second one, and this is the third one, sits on right on top of this last one here. So I'll work 3 double crochets into that middle stitch. There it is. And then I will move on to the next loop here where I have 3 single crochets, and I will work 3 double crochets again in the middle stitch here. So those 3 stitches in that loop in the middle stitch, I'll just go ahead and work 3 double crochets. So here I skip 2 stitches and I work 3 double crochets in the middle of this loop. All right, there's my cluster of 3 double crochets. Then I'll start my next corner in this next loop here. So I have my double crochet for this cluster here for the side, and in this loop I'll work my next corner. So I go yarn over twice, and now I go into the first stitch of those 3 single crochets there. So here I skip 1 and I go into the next one. It's the first single crochet in that loop. I work 3 treble crochets here. Then I chain 2 for the corner. And I work 3 more treble crochets into the third single crochet of this loop. So I skip 1 and I go into the next one. And there is my next corner. And this is how I'll be working all around this square. So again, in the sides, I will work a cluster of double crochets in the middle stitch of these 3 stitches in that loop. I'll work another cluster of double crochets in the middle stitch of the next loop. And when I get to my corner, I work a cluster of treble crochets in the first one and in the third stitch to make my corner. And I chain 2 in the middle of those. If you want to see how we made the side and the corner, feel free to rewind and go back here and make the rest of the sides exactly the same way we made this one, and the remaining 2 corners the same way as we made this corner here. So rewind, watch this part as many times as you need to, work all around your black-eyed Susan, and then meet me back here. All right, I have worked all around, and now I'm ready to close this round. And I close my round on the with a slip stitch here into the 4th stitch, counting from here. So remember how we started with that chain 4. I go 1, 2, 3, 4. I close my round with a slip stitch into the 4th stitch. And then I will make a couple of more slip stitches to get to my next corner. So let's just go into the next stitch and slip stitch into the next one under both of those loops and slip stitch, and finally into the corner space and slip stitch. And now I'm ready to start my final round. And for this last round, I am going to be creating double crochet granny stitches all around. So I'll just work clusters of 3 double crochets into those spaces between the previous round's clusters. And I'm going to start here in this corner, and I'm going to start by chaining 3 stitches. That's going to count as my first double crochet. I work 2 more double crochets into this corner space. That's my first corner cluster. I chain 2 for the corner, and then I will work 3 more double crochets into the same corner space. If you have made granny squares in the past, this is going to feel very familiar to you because we'll just work granny stitches all around. So there's my first corner. Next, I will move on to this space between the previous round's clusters, and I'll work 3 double crochets into this space. And 3 double crochets into the next space. And 3 double crochets into the next space. So this is now much easier when we don't have to be making the clusters into individual stitches, but just rather these spaces between the previous round's clusters. There it is, and now I'm ready to make my next corner here. So 3 double crochets, chain 2 for the corner, and 3 double crochets. There it is. So that is how I work all around. So it's just clusters of double crochet into each one of those spaces between the previous round's clusters, and then in the corners we'll do 2 clusters of double crochet separated by a chain 2. So go ahead, work all around yours, and then meet me over here. All right, I have worked all around and I'm ready to close this last round. So just like before, now I go to the 3rd stitch here, counting from here. So this is the initial chain 3 that I made. That counts as my first double crochet. I will just slip stitch right here. And I'll chain 1. And I can fasten off. All right, and here is my Black-Eyed Susan granny square for Maryland. Now the only things that I have left here is weaving in the rest of my ends, mainly this one and the initial one. Everything else has been woven into 2 different directions already. But yeah, there are a couple of ends that I still need to take care of. So weaving those in, and then blocking the granny square. This one hasn't been blocked yet either, so blocking both of these just to give them a little more finalized look. But otherwise I'm all done. Thank you so much for watching this tutorial. If you're posting pictures of your Black-Eyed Susan granny square on Instagram, please make sure to tag my account. It's Wildflower and Stitch. I would love to see your granny square. Thank you again so much for watching. Please make sure to subscribe to my channel, like this video, leave me a comment, share this with a crochet friend if you like this, because all of those things do help me a lot. I appreciate you so much, and I will see you next time. Bye bye. Take care.